Let me put this simply, if you love fast-paced dungeon crawling games, running and customizing your shop, and making your own build that will annihilate enemies, then you're going to absolutely love Moonlighter 2. My footage is mainly from the first few hours, so you don't have to worry about me spoiling anything for you, and the game is available on PC at the moment, and I played it using my Xbox controller. You can try it for yourself using the link that's right below the like button, as I'm partnering with 11-Bit Studios and Digital Sun to show you everything that Moonlighter 2's early access has to offer. So the story begins with you playing as Will. He's a shopkeeper from the village of Renoka who grew up exploring ancient dungeons to find relics to sell. But everything is about to change when he enters the 5th dungeon, which reveals that Renoka is actually connected to other dimensions. So this interdimensional collector called Moloch decides he wants to take control of the dungeons, and he even captures Renoka. So everyone now is forced to flee, and many of you end up in Tresna, where you're gonna see the first scene where Miss Scratch is throwing you right into the desert and is demanding that you find some relics that you can then sell at the shop because, you know, you've been just seeking shelter in her place and she's kind of fed up with you. She's just done helping you for free. So there she goes, throwing you with a backpack in your face, and you get this broom to fend for yourself. And while you're in your first dungeon ever, you hear this strange voice that turns out to be this endless vault back in town that is demanding you gather gold and become stronger so it can open its gates for you and show you some trials. Soon after, you're gonna discover a wide range of dimensions to explore and weapons to use. There is a lot more to the story here, but again, I don't want to spoil it for you. Now, combat and dungeon crawling is the bread and butter of this game because you're not gonna be able to run your shop if you don't have relics to sell. Right off the bat, you're offered with 3 difficulty levels. You have easy, medium, and hard. I went with normal, but I gotta say, even at easy, the game is pretty challenging. You're gonna have to memorize enemies' patterns, gonna be on your toes, you're gonna get your butt kicked, so make sure to pick whatever difficulty level suits you. And I'm gonna give you a heads up, be comfortable with dying. I'm gonna tell you what the repercussions are in a bit, but you're gonna be dying a lot. So before you head into a dungeon, you use this portal in town. In the beginning, you can only enter the daytime dungeon, but eventually you're gonna unlock new biomes, so you're gonna start with the desert. Then you get this exhibition / museum looking one, which has its own relics, recipes, and enemies. In fact, every dungeon has a different feel, including the curses that they have, which I'm gonna show you in a second. With that said, I really appreciate how different each dimension feels. Combat here is fast-paced, and I love using traps to my advantage. When I started, I chose gauntlets as my weapon, because if you know me by now, you know I love fast-paced weapons like this, but you can also choose to have a short sword, which seems to be like a good balance. There's also a spear and a long sword as well. Every weapon is very different. If you like the gauntlets like I do, you have a special attack which deals more damage, and it makes you even faster when attacking. So when you press the Y button on your controller, you're gonna build it up, and you're gonna see this meter here is going up right now. This is actually your berserk meter, and every time you activate the special attack, you're gonna notice that it's slow to recharge, but you're gonna be going crazy. As you attack enemies, some of them will turn purple, and you can use your backpack to just send them flying off the ledge. You can send them into a trap, which I love doing, or better yet, use them to hit an enemy and just get the leverage. You can also roll out of attacks, and this is gonna save your butt a lot. And you have this gun here that you can use to take down enemies from afar, or do what I like to do, which is hit flying enemies to bring them down to the ground so you can finally hit them. Now, this gun has a reloading meter that you can see over here, and you can build it up by doing damage to the enemies. And of course, you're going to be taking in damage. In the beginning, you only have 1 potion to use, which is activated by pressing down on your D-pad. You're gonna see yourself burning through that potion pretty quickly, but don't worry, you can get more later on. If you're wondering how dungeons work, they're very similar to Fantasy Life dungeons or Cult of the Lamb if you played either. So what you have is you get this map and you choose the route, whatever however you say that, and every route or room in here has its own objective. It can be obtaining a chest for relics, it can be an event, a blacksmith, recipes, mini bosses, or something else. And these rooms change with every run that you do, so you're never gonna see the exact same path twice. If you get defeated in any of these rooms, you'll lose 50% of the quality of your relics that are in your backpack. And this is where you have a choice to make. Do you want to try again? But this time, if you die, you're gonna lose everything. Or you say, you know what, I'm gonna accept my losses and I'm just gonna use my pendant and return home. And the really cool part is that you don't have to wait till like you're almost dead to leave. You can always hold down the B button on your controller to activate your pendant, and you can go back to Tresna. And I really recommend just getting out when, you know, you've done so much and you don't want to lose everything, just get out. Because you know what? If you do try again, your tools are gonna reset and you get your potions back, but you also restart from room 1. But like, what's the purpose of these dungeons? So here you're gonna be collecting relics, which is a crucial part of this game. And this is when your backpack becomes like a little bit of a puzzle, kind of Tetris thing that you're trying to figure out. So in every biome, relics have special effects that are called curses. And these will activate when you place the relic inside your backpack. So when you find a relic, if it has no curse, you just place it in your backpack and you're cool, you're good to go. Or you can choose to keep it in the chest. But if it does have a curse, it will trigger and it will affect different items in your bag. Some will affect items adjacent to them, others impact an entire column, for example, so you gotta be strategic. In the first dungeon, for example, that you're exploring, items can have a burn effect. So you can burn items based on the rules that this relic has, which you clearly see in the description here. And some relics will actually get a higher quality if they burn a certain amount of items, meaning they're gonna sell for a lot more. Now in the second dungeon, you unlock something that is called the shock curse. Shocking increases the relic's quality, but it can also overcharge them, which destroys them, unless you have a battery relic that can, you know, just counteract everything and start you back from 0. This might sound a little bit worrying, but I can tell you that these curses trigger only once, so once they do whatever they're supposed to do, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Also, remember how I told you that every room has a different, objective? There are some that are called an event room. These are gonna give you risk versus reward choices. So in one event, I picked up the option that made enemies drop bombs every time they died. So this put me in a lot of danger for the next 3 rooms. But once I survived that, my critical damage increased by 30%, which is incredible. Other rooms can give you perks at the end, like foam or wound perk, for example. So for this, every time you hit an enemy, you can also have a certain percentage chance of inflicting a wound on them. So everything comes in a set of 3 choices, and you're always gonna have these 3 choices to choose from, and this makes every run so different. So not only every run is gonna be different for you, but you're also gonna have a different experience from other people who are playing this game. Moving to the next massive aspect of this game, is all about shopkeeping, and it plays a really crucial role here. Because what are we doing with all of these relics? Like, I'm getting my butt kicked here, but like, what's the point? So basically, you're gonna use the various relics that you gather, and you're gonna place them on these cases. Then you're gonna try and guess what their price is going to be. This is all trial and error, so you can read the item's description to kind of try and guess, what might it cost like. So this is really the fun part here. And then when you open your shop, customers are gonna come in, they're gonna examine the items, and they're gonna react to the prices. You're gonna have 4 different reactions based on the emoji on top of their heads. Cheap means you're undercharging, which of course the customers are gonna love. Perfect means that you have got the fair price. Expensive means it's a little bit too high, they're gonna buy it, but they're gonna give you an attitude for it. And finally, overpriced means that they're not gonna buy it at all, you're being ridiculous, and I may or may not have been pretty ridiculous with pretty much all of the prices that I set in the beginning. But this sets the question, like, Miss Bubbles, there's so many items, like, do you think I'm gonna memorize everything? Well, you don't have to, don't worry. The game does an excellent job to help you with this, because whenever you place an item on a case, you see this panel over here that shows you previous sales and customer reactions. So while it is trial and error in the beginning, you're easily gonna know how to set the prices later on, and don't worry, you can change the prices even when your shop is open. So let's say you see someone who thinks you're overcharging, they're upset, they left. That's fine. You can still change the price and you can sell it to someone else, because you're not forced to close the shop unless you run out of relics to sell, which I appreciate, and I know many of you will as well. The game in general has a day and night cycle where you open the shop in the day and then you dungeon crawl at night, and you can sleep in your bed here to change the time, but there's no time ticking, there's no clock that is stressing you out. Now, even though items have a price, they also have a percentage increase when they have good quality, so the game is gonna automatically add that up for you, and this is what's gonna encourage you during your dungeon runs to make use of the relics and the curses and all of that to be strategic, so that even though you're getting maybe a just cheap item, if it's really high quality, then you can make up for it. By the way, for the prices, you also see this codex here, which is extremely useful because it remembers every item you've sold and what you've sold it for. Not only that, but also when you're in the dungeon, once you figure out the pricing, you can see that price tag when you're choosing to either leave the relic in the chest or actually take it. And this makes it very easy for you to manage your backpack because in the beginning it's very limited. So sometimes you might have to leave some stuff and they're not coming back to Tresna with you. You also have this robot called Keeper, but they switched the E's for 3s, and it's great. Not only does it act as a storage box for you, but it also lets you reorganize your cases, your decoration, you can add and remove furniture, and when you unlock it, you also get access to shop rewards, which are a game changer. So whenever you get a cheap or a fair price sale, you build your way up, and then you get a reward. So you can go to your cashier here, and there's this object next to it. When it activates and you press it, you're gonna get again 3 different random rewards that you can activate, like getting an X% increase when selling common relics or getting X amount of tips in your tip jar. The Keeper also has a list of perks that you can unlock for your store, and you see the game is always trying to reward you. There's always a reward waiting for you at the corner, and this makes the gameplay loop fast, engaging, and rewarding every time. I also unlocked this cute bloblet, which I can pet, and seems like the devs are working on integrating some rewards related to it, which is gonna be interesting to see, how is it gonna tie into running your shop and the dungeons and all of that. And the last 2 things that I want to tell you about in the shop is that sometimes known customers are going to come by, and these are gonna be one of the villagers that you're familiar with, you've talked to them, they're gonna have different requests, so some are gonna come in and be like, hey, do you have this item with a cheap price? They're not gonna talk to you, but you're gonna see above their head what they want. Or sometimes they're just looking for a product that has a specific quality. When you fulfill their request, you're gonna get a reward for it, but they will leave and not buy anything if you can't help them. And this ties to your calendar here, which is in your codex as well. It shows you upcoming events every day. For example, here I had a free day, so there was nothing happening. But then I can also see which customers are going to come in. And then here I see on the 9th day, there's an epic priority day. So that's for relics with a rarity of epic. Or on the 11th day, relics from the culture of Kalina, which is one of the dungeons you're going to, is gonna be popular here. While you know me, I love daggers in my games, so the closest thing was gauntlets here. I found myself gravitating towards the short sword, and this ties into how this game lets you have different builds depending on your playstyle. So I tested the short sword and I was surprised that I eventually just changed to it and never went back to the gauntlets. So with this one, every 4th consecutive attack triggers a finisher that's gonna deal extra damage, and its special attack that you can use by using the Y button, it actually hits surrounding enemies, which I found to be a great tactic for crowd control because the enemies in this game have a tendency to reach a point very quickly in every dungeon where they are literally surrounding you and it's really hard to navigate, so having something like this is really good. And this is where experimenting with your build comes in handy. Again, you can choose what type of weapon you want to use based on your gameplay style, and then you have this arcane panel over here which you're gonna unlock in your town, so you can use it to spend coins and resources to unlock upgrades like more potions. Stronger potions, which means they're gonna give you more health when you use them. You can increase extra max health or make sure that you have a room to restore your health before you have the final boss, etc. I would suggest investing in these, even if your main quest is always gonna be oh, gather X amount of gold for the endless vault, because the game is gonna count how much you made in total, so it doesn't really matter where you spend the money. It just wants to make sure that in total you've made this amount of cash. And you see how I told you about this arcane panel? Well, this whole area in your town is your main hub. This is where you can access not only that arcane panel, but also the blacksmith to redeem gold and materials and get stronger weapons. This is also where your bed and shop are located. You also go to these shops to buy furniture that affect your item sales. You can use vouchers at Miss Scratch's shop to get decorations. Now, these seem to be random so far, so you can't choose exactly what you're getting, and I don't know if it's RNG or the devs devs have them set out to unlock chronologically, I have no idea, but you can unlock wallpapers, tiles, cashier skins, and more. In town, you also meet Sliver, who's very important. They're gonna give you backpack upgrades, trust me, you're gonna need it, in exchange for gold. You also unlock research here with 3 tiers, and you're gonna need, once again, materials and gold to unlock each one. And if you're wondering about these research tiers, basically they help you on your runs. So in this first one, we can craft the weapon highlight, which means one weapon is going to be highlighted every day, and if you equip it, it's going to grant you higher relics. Or this one, for example, it's for double chest, meaning you can unlock the chance for chests to appear in pairs, which can come in handy to increase the amount of relics that you get on each run, and thus getting more money when you run your shop. Also, when you're in town, you're gonna see these green exclamation points above villagers' heads. If you see it, it means that a villager has a quest for you. So far, it seems like the majority of them usually have to do with discovering a bit of the story lore, and it will also have the villagers asking you to dive deeper into dungeons to recover certain items for them, or like materials, in exchange for rewards. And you can check all of these quests in this menu here, or you can choose to track one, so you can always have it marked when you play to quickly remember your objective. And another thing that I discovered during my playthrough so far is you have these secret rooms that you can just find. For example, as I was exploring one of the dungeons, I found a secret path next to the blacksmith, and in there, I was able to teleport into a whole another area with a whole room of traps. And in the end, there was one of the villagers' requested items. So when I got that quest, I had no idea where to find it. I just knew like, okay, dive deep into one of the dungeons, and there you go, it was here. While I have all of the sprays, I do have a couple of nitpicks, and we can tackle the first one right now, which is like, it's funny that my nitpick is that like simple, but you see here when you're redeeming vouchers for decorations, I just think it's taking way too long, because you see me, I just keep having to go through the dialogue and asking for Miss Scratch to redeem more and more and more, and I'm like, can we just do it in one go so that it's less tiresome? And then the second one is gonna be in this part, but before we talk about that second nitpick, I want to say, oh my goodness, the graphics look great. The attention to detail is so good. Like, I wanted to show you this here. You see in this footage, you're gonna notice Will's bag is always moving when he runs. Even his satchel is gonna shift when he's inside the shop. You also see how his outfit is changing depending on whether he's indoors, you know, running his shop, going to bed, whatever the case may be, or he's outside in his dungeon crawling gear. There's small attention to detail like this in all corners of the game, from the town to your shop to the dungeons themselves, which add to your immersion, and that's accompanied by a really good soundtrack. However, I would say a bit more variety in the tracks would be great, because you're dying a lot, you're repeating the dungeons. So while the music is amazing, I feel like we need more tracks to keep things to keep variety in the music department. But yeah, like, what small two little nitpicks that I have. Now, the game, as I said, is in early access, and I wanted to use the developers' words to show you exactly what is available right now and what they're planning to do. So we have 3 biomes available, each with unique enemies, in general over 120 relics to sell in your shop. Also, most of the story is already here for you to experience, and everything we are able to play is built around an updated combat system featuring 4 main weapons, nearly 100 shop and dungeon perks, and a smoother, improved feel from the first game. So Moonlighter 2 right now is a fully playable experience, but it's not yet content complete. Some systems will still be evolving, balance will shift, and you may spot a few rough edges. And I really appreciate that the devs want your feedback. Basically, they're gonna take it into consideration so that they can have additional environments to explore, more enemies, bosses, and loot to discover. They want your feedback to expand shop systems, events, and customization options, new NPCs, quests, and story moments. They're also gonna take into consideration suggestions that you have about the UI and quality of life improvements. Digital Sun are keeping an eye on their Discord, Steam forums, and their social channels, so you play a part in shaping up the future of this game. You know me by now, I've always supported early access games, especially when a developer is so keen on taking our feedback and letting us help mold how the game is going to be in its final form. And I think this is the perfect segue into, is this game the one for you? Before we get into that, hello you gorgeous human being, it's Miss Bubbles. I'm so happy to have you here today. If this video has been helpful so far, do me a favor and squish the like and subscribe buttons, and consider supporting me on Ko-fi, Patreon, and YouTube memberships. I'll leave the links below the like button. This game is for you if you like fast-paced combat, dungeon runs with rewarding progression, and you like running a shop and experimenting with prices. It's also for you if you like strategic backpack management, learning enemy patterns, and a game that offers you a mix of combat, looting, crafting, and selling. And it's definitely for you if you love discovering secrets, because there's an intriguing, mysterious story unfolding, and experimenting with the relic curses that I told you about is such a cool concept, which is gonna make you weigh out the pros and cons of not only every route you're taking in the dungeon, but also every single item you choose to take or maybe keep in the dungeon chests. However, this game is not for you if you only play cozy games and struggle with tougher combat. I've seen this game in so many cozy game lists, and while the shopkeeping is, a cozy aspect of it, and while there are different difficulty levels to cater your gameplay, you still need to know how to strategically attack enemies, especially when many of them are gonna swarm around you, and you need to be comfortable memorizing enemy patterns rather than just, mashing the attack button, because you're gonna get your butt kicked. It's also not for you if you hate repercussions from dying, so in general, if you're not a fan of action-adventure RPGs, this is not gonna be for you. As for me, I am having a great time. I love going into the dungeons, getting my butt kicked, going back up, selling my relics, upgrading my gear and my stuff, and then going back again, and it's just insanity because I'm doing the same thing over and over again, but it feels so rewarding because there is a level of progression. It's like going to the gym, doing progressive overload every time. We do something, we get better, we do it again. I love this. And while the game's mechanics are straightforward and easy to get accustomed to, this game is in the category of easy to pick up, but hard to master. But I've been chatting to you for too long and I want to hear back from you. This is my favorite part of all of my videos, actually sitting down after you watch this and seeing what you think about this. Have you played the first game? Are you interested in the second one? Or is the second one gonna be your first experience with a Moonlighter game? Let me know. I can't wait to talk to you. And remember, you can pick up the game for yourself right now in early access using the link below the like button. Thank you to my YouTube and Patreon bubblies who make videos like this possible, and a shout out goes to the Game Dimension, Yugoslav, Stella, and Jake Logan for going the extra mile. Until next time, stay bubbly.